There's Martin. You are watching Ropeadope TV in the house of Ropeadope. You understand what I'm saying? Sounds of Crenshaw Ropeadope. Tune in. Don't tune out. Make sure you always keep an eye on what's going on because things move fast in life and things move fast at Ropeadope. So if you blink, you might miss some hip shit. Ropeadope TV, Terrence Martin. Peace.
Right. Yeah. Cash was everything around me, Hey yo, money make the world go round and make a girl go down and make a fiend straight steal from his kid. Attack of the base head, just like Ye said, having it ain't everything, not having it is. Money got honey tan and to get her toned up. Money make a man take roids to hit the home runs. Money make a man turn his back on his own son. Money have a man turn his head to his own gun. Cause the stock market crash, he can't breathe. He robbed that man for money now, he can't sleep. She can't feed a baby cause she got a disease. From sucking dick to get a fix, she need money to scheme. It was all a dream, to turn into a nightmare. Money make a man night fight fair, that's life, yeah. And right there is the saddest, my man. When money coming to the planet, tear apart a whole fan like that.
I'm living fast, call fancy women, yeah. I'm making a living, but I wanna make a killing. I'm money makes the world go round.
Woo! Money makes the world go round. I'm gonna make a living and I'm trying to make a killing. I just love that. That's Koof Knots from way back at Ropeadope, probably 2006, I want to say, with the Philadelphia crew. Always like to dig back into the archives and play some good things. We are here, season 4, episode 2, just chilling. We have our special guest on today, Mr. Joe Pignatto. Joe, how are you?
I'm doing well, Louis. How are you?
I'm good. I got my beverage of choice.
All right.
I'm in my fake office, and it's cold as hell outside, and here we are. We want to have a little bit of a chat, but the first thing I want to do is give the people a little taste of Bright Dog Red. This is Under the Porch, I believe, from 2021. Are we already past 2021?
2020. Yeah, there's a track Under the Porch on the In Vivo album 2021. Absolutely.
All right, we're going to let the people enjoy that. We'll be right back.
He's somewhere in the dirt. He's somewhere under the porch, sticking his fingers through the lattice. He is a vine wrapping himself around the tree. And he is the branch wrapping himself around the sky. Somewhere under the porch, I buried it. Was it yesterday or tomorrow? I can't remember anymore. Somewhere under the porch is where all my dreams have come true and then let go of themselves. Somewhere under that porch, I could feel the dirt still on my fingernails. I could see the red and blue lights as they flash and go crisp in my head. And somewhere under the porch, there's a heart still beating and thumping, and that is what the ground does, you know? That is what the dirt likes to bring us in the morning when we haven't even had our cup of coffee yet. This is my childhood. These are the holes in the lattice that I speak through and I look through, and this is where I want to go tomorrow. Somewhere between the crackle of leaves and the grass growing up to my fingernails, that's where I want to live. And before I forget my mother's whistle or fuse it with the birds chirping, I think back to all the earthworms grinding themselves to dust and the rain that follows them. What do you know? What do you know about the dark spaces that I can't even think a light could shine through? What do you know about that? My dad prayed for me 3 times, and all I have to show for it is the green that runs out of my hips and digs itself into the dirt with its roots. What do you know about that?
All right, the amazing, always challenging, always grabbing your full attention, Bright Dog Red. I'm still just amazed that that can happen. And Joe Pignato's here, who is the mastermind, if you will, or master artist behind this concept at Bright Dog Red. Joe, who else does this?
Well, I mean, there's a long tradition, I think, of improvising bands, and today there are folks out there doing so many interesting things. Right? It's a period where I think there's always been a strand of improvised music, but we're in a period where musicians try different things. They draw from different points of reference, and the points of references are wider than ever before because there's more history, there's more access to that history, and I think with the kind of central kind of gatekeeping mechanisms of the old recording industry, say, that existed up until maybe the 90s, without those being so firmly entrenched, you have people doing things that they couldn't have done maybe in the past, or they could have done but nobody would really hear. They wouldn't get booked or they wouldn't get released. So yeah, I mean, there's so many artists. James Brandon Lewis comes to mind as somebody that we're big fans of. But others as well. The saxophonist Tim Byrne, his projects with David Torn are projects that are really interesting. But those are just some. The Vijay Iyer trio with Tyshawn Sori and Linda Mahon O, like that record that they did this year. It's different music, but it's improvised music at its core. And all those artists, there's so many others I'm not thinking of right now. Maria Grande, some of her music's been really interesting to us. That we just really, we're glad there's a community of people out there. Val Gentil comes to mind, Terry Lynn Carrington's groups. Yeah, these are just off the top of my head, examples of groups that are mixing and matching things, but not for the purposes of mixing and matching, just kind of as a natural outgrowth of the pursuit of their own specific vision. And that's been exciting to see, and certainly where we've been able to collaborate with folks like Morgan Guerin or Tim Lefebvre. We've tried to take advantage of that, being part of that scene.
I want to ask you about Tim. You're working with Tim on a new record that's coming up in 2022, or you've already worked together?
This is a good segue. So Tim and I developed a kind of social media correspondence, and turns out that we have some things in common. And with everything being shut down, we started creating an album using a different approach than we'd done in the past, but one that I had been interested in pursuing for some time, which is basically like a beat production approach to a Bright Dog Bread album. And so for those of us tuning in who are unfamiliar with what we do, normally we record live in a studio. Everything is completely improvised, and then I take what we've done and I kind of edit it and finesse it into an album. But with us being separated due to COVID, we had to come up with a different way to create an album but maintain that kind of spirit. So I recorded a bunch of drum tracks that were completely improvised. Some I had a click going in my ears. Others I didn't have a click going, and I just kind of played free. And then I sent those tracks to 3 different bass players. And so Tim was one of them. And when Tim heard we were working on a record this way, he said, send some stuff to me. I love to work that way. So he's on 1/3 of the album. And so I sent the stuff to the bass players, they sent me their parts back, and then each of the tracks just kind of evolved. As I would hear what the next person contributed, I would think of somebody else to send it to. And so for the challenge for the folks in the group is that, with the exception of me, nobody knew what the album was actually going to sound like or the tracks were going to sound like. And honestly, I wasn't so sure either, because, I'd hear something and say, oh, all right, well, Tim, now he's going in a different direction, and then maybe Cody would add electronic sounds, and that's totally different. But then Matt would rap over it. It's like, oh wait, let's go back to that other idea, and so it just developed over time. So that'll come out in May of 2022.
Amazing to see this all happening. Amazing to see you create and rise to the challenge. I want to say hello to Mr. Fabian Brown, whom everyone knows is in the room.
Fabe.
Yeah, the man. He's got the 21 Soul up in the background there. He's ready to go. I'm gonna give you. I have on my list that we're supposed to ask Joe a random question about something he knows nothing about.
Cool. So, random questions. All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to double check my list. In preparation for this, I did absolutely nothing. So I'm going to have to come up with a question. But Fabian, you get one question for Joe. And then we're going to cut back and listen to a little bit more music to keep things moving. So
I love it. So just to be clear, Lewis, do you want me to have fun with Joe on some random questions, or you want me to keep it like in the vibe?
Oh, I figured you'd go with the music. I'm not going to put you on the spot that hard.
Okay. I'm just being clear.
I mean, I will in the future, but now that you did that, but no, go ahead and riff, whatever you want.
I mean, first of all, Joe, thanks for popping in here. You're doing one things, man, and just your time is valuable. So I really appreciate you coming here. And I'm always excited to talk to you, man, just because, the connection and the vibe, your legacy, your history, and our personal connection. You've brought, is it 5? I think I lost count. Is it 5 albums? Okay.
The one coming out in May will be the 5th with Ropeadope. Yeah.
Will be the 5th album. And, we always talk offline, man, about the vibe and the evolution and the growth and the momentum and the maturity that's been happening over the past several releases. But my question is going to revolve around what we just heard, okay? The track Under the Porch, on the last album. What are the significant differences between what we just heard and what's coming up on the album, also titled Under the Porch?
Yeah, so before we did the live album, I was having conversations with Matt, who's our poet and MC, about some concepts for the studio album. And so one of the concepts was like thinking of a kind of hypothetical place that would be a refuge to somebody who's particularly vulnerable. I was thinking specifically of children, and sort of like children playing under a porch and sort of hiding out from, whatever maybe beyond the porch was threatening to them. And I thought it was it was important to me personally for a lot of reasons, but also because of what's happening sort of globally, right? We're seeing the frailty and the vulnerability of our humanity. We're seeing how finding a safe space and sort of retreating sometimes is a necessity for survival. And so I asked Matt to sort of think about that as a concept. And so in a free improvisation, in a fairly free track, he improvised that poetry, and the title for that track, Under the Porch, just made sense. So I debated giving it another title because we had already been thinking about the album having that title. But then I thought it'd be very Bright Dog Red for us to have a track that has no musical or lyrical connection, but is thematically connected to the album. And so the theme of a place where one might go to seek refuge, protection, and we're not an overtly political band, but we do have, and Lewis has always been pretty tuned into this, we do have an undercurrent in our themes. All the three MCs have really focused on sort of, for lack of a better phrase, I think we're trying to ruminate on the notion that the collectivism matters, and it matters within the group, but we think it matters more broadly. So like the album Housed by You, the idea that you should check in on a neighbor more than just like being friendly. Like, your neighbor might need you, you might need your neighbor, and you and your neighbor sort of in it together, right? Both your real neighbor and the proverbial neighbors that surround us. So I think that's why you have this track with one name and an album with the same name, but musically they're actually very different. But in terms of our inspiration, the impetus for what we were thinking about, there's common thematic material, and we work that way on all of our albums. There's usually a conversation with the musicians of something to ruminate on as they, either in the case of Maddie's writing words, but for the instrumentalists, in your improvisations, ruminate on this idea, ruminate on this theme. And I try not to ever be too literal, too specific. Sometimes it's a little oblique, and they're scratching their head after talking to me about it. But in searching for a way to construct meaning with their instrument or their voice, I know they're going to come up with something that's worth capturing and thinking about, and maybe will inform then future projects.
I love it. Well, I just want to highly advise everyone, dig deep and dig back, because the evolution of this thing called Bright Dog Red is just something else. And if you're into cover art, I'm not going to tell you the color of the cover art, but
I don't know. I haven't looked yet, but it's on my mind. I want to know. All right, we're gonna take a break for some music. We're gonna come back when I steal from NPR and ask Joe a random question. But we're gonna jump in here to a little bit of music from the group Eyedentity. And if you're not hip to this album, check it out. But it starts out with a little bit of a phone call intro from the great Wayne Shorter.
Yeah.
Hey, Krishna and Gianna, it's Wayne again. We love you guys. So the more chances that you take, the more heads you're gonna break.
Break it down for me. My vision getting dark, would you shine your light for me?
Yes, I will. And for me, will you be everything you're meant to be?
Yes, I will. Would you sing your melody for me until I break it down?
Yes, I will. And will you rock the mic, 'cause you know it turns me on?
Yes, I will.
your kiss.
Just adore me.
Stand up for me.
Hold me tight now.
Show me right now.
Show me now.
I will come to you when you need me to. Hold you near to me. Give you my heart and then I set you free. I have no control. You be in my soul. I give you the sky with a smile on my face and a tear in my eye now. I'll get by, you know I will, long as I got my baby by my side. And you know, boy, that I love you still. I'll walk through the fire for you, yes I will. Should I get lost, will you help me find my way?
Yes, I will. Will you let me lay you down after you had a long day?
Yes, I will. When times are hard, will you always be my friend?
Yes, I will. As long as I can be yours and you'll be mine until the end. Till the end.
Yes, I will. In the morning, in the evening,
through the darkness, give me your kiss.
just adore you.
Stand before you.
Hold me tight now.
I show you right now. The brightest light in the darkest night. Restore my sight as soon as you ignite. The flame burning hot, non-stop. After bombs drop, I was about to pop with your voice dripping all the way down my lips. I bring the rhythm so you always move your hips. Up in my section, bumping this selection. Stop the stress and point me in the right direction.
Once again,
No words explain what I feel.
and even when
We chill, I find it harder to deal.
I count to 10,
Take a deep breath, then I steal a kiss from your lips just to make sure that it's real. That's right. My vision's getting dark, but just shine your light for me.
yes I will. And for me, will you be everything you're meant to be?
Yes, I will. Will you sing a melody for me until the break of dawn?
Yes, I will. And will you rock the mic, cause you know it turns me on.
You know I will.
In the morning, in the evening, through the darkness, give me your kiss.
Just adore me.
Just adore me.
Stand up for me.
Stand up for
Hold
me.
me tight now.
Hold me tight
Show
now.
me right
Show
now.
me right
Yeah.
now.
Work for me. There we go. Yeah. Good one. Good one, you piece of technological equipment. We are back. I'm here with Fabian Brown and Joe Pinato. We just heard Eyedentity. Fabian, can you just run down real quick where people can find that music? The Wayne Shorter connection is family. Dig into the story of Krishna Booker for one, and then you won't be disappointed. You won't be disappointed. That was a wonderful record. They're breaking new ground in their particular way.
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is give propers to Bandcamp, and you can go and check out that album at eyedentity.bandcamp.com. And
EYE.
I'm sorry?
EYE. Eyedentity.
EYE, yes, Eyedentity, like this guy right here. Mm-hmm. Here's what I know. These cats, they're no stranger to the music scene whatsoever. And when this project came in, I found myself just literally on loop, listening over and over and over again. And every time I would think I would get it, I would give it another pass, and I would find, or I would discover, I would hear something else. So, again, my encouragement, check it out. eyedentity.bandcamp.com for your pleasures of listening. In fact, downloads.ropeadope.com, if I can put another shameless plug in there, for all of your Ropeadope treats.
This whole show is shameless. You can plug away all you like. We have no shame.
There's no shame.
It's a foolish emotion. So, speaking of no shame, I do watch the NPR show Wait, Don't Tell Me. And one of my favorite things is when they get like a celebrity on who's an expert. They would have Dr. Fauci on and then ask him something about, I don't know, totem poles. You know, I mean, just out of the blue. So we're gonna have our own little version of that, the random question of the day, and because Joe heads up Bright Dog Red. And I'm improvising and did not have a question prepared. Dogs was the first thing I went to. So the question, and you will win something, I'm not sure what the hell it is, but I would like Joe Pinato from Bright Dog Red to tell us what the largest breed of dog in the world is.
That's a great question. I don't know if it's the largest breed in the world.
I could read you, if you have an answer, great, or I can, do the clues, read you some of the top ones.
I have two answers, so I'm going to go with, actually there's three now that are coming to mind. I'm going to go with, I don't think this is the right answer, but I just want to say this particular dog, and then I could tell you what the other two are. So the first thing that came to mind is the Neapolitan Mastiff, which is a very large dog. But then I thought about the Great Dane, which is a really large dog, and St. Bernards, which are also really large dogs. But
you just named Mastiff, 8. You just named number 8, number 3, and 1 was not on the list.
Okay. Well, so I gave you my honest first response, Neapolitan Mastiff. Was that on the list at all?
I will give you number 8, yes.
Okay.
But I will give you a hint. The second word is correct. The first word is not.
So some kind of Mastiff? Mm-hmm. The Neapolitan Mastiff is the only Mastiff I know.
There you go. So we're gonna give it away. It's the English Mastiff, which is first I've heard that name of that dog. And bonus round. What is the tallest dog in the world?
I would say Great Dane.
It's the Irish Wolfhound, and with
Irish Wolf. I don't even know what an Irish Wolfhound looks like. That's one I'll have to look up.
They are beautiful dogs. They really are.
Are they grayish, kind of like, since you seem to have a resource there, are they kind of like really tall, kind of greyhound build with long hair?
That's right, and like I think a grayish is, if I'm getting it right. I don't have all the images that I need. Somebody at Google should fix this to our, quickly. We're going to come back to the conversation, Joe, if you're interested in sticking around, and I'm going to just play some more music real quick. This is a treat, something coming up, something new out this year from Russ Kaplan, and we've been waiting a long time. And I want to say, when you were talking, Joe, about the way this new album of yours, of Bright Dog Red, is created, Russ Kaplan did a thing during lockdown in 2020 where they passed around 8 tracks. Everybody just sent the other person the sheet music, and then no one knew what it was going to sound like until they finished. So it's a variation of that kind of like, lockdown improv, Yeah. So, but we have
a lot of people had to take that approach. Yeah.
So we have some new music from Russ Kaplan right here. It's been a long time coming. It's magic. We are back. I am here. Ropeadope TV, Season 4, episode... I'm not even going to say the episode number because in future episodes... Thank you. Future episodes, I am not going to know. I'm going to pin myself up because I've been told that I'm not as visible as I should be. There we go.
Need to see you, Lewis.
There we go. I got a little computer glow. We are having some fun. This is every Thursday night, 6 o'clock, and honestly, it's not well presented. It's just, see, look at that. It's just me and Fabian hanging out, having a drink together, and chatting with some people, and making things up to pass the time and to communicate with each other and to communicate with you, and also review some of the great music that's been out on Ropeadope over the course of 2021, and to preview some music that's coming out in 2022. It's like a fireside chat, and join us. We set out this season, I think, with no goal. We started to talk about, well, we'd like you to share it and get more people to view, watch or don't watch, and how do we measure success. And we decided to throw all those metrics out the window. So, don't tell your friends, whatever. Let it roll. We really don't care. We're having a good time. But we do care about you. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. All right. So I'm here with Joe Pignato and Fabian Brown, who is enjoying the space. What's next on the list, guys? I only have one more track to play. What else do we want to talk about?
Maybe I'll just mention that last track with Russ. It's definitely a departure from, well, you were mentioning it offline, right? He put this series together called 9 Takes, where musicians from literally all around the globe, were able to, hey, here's a piece of music, go. Right?
Almost 9 continents, yeah.
Yeah, 9 different continents. So you have that Russ Kaplan, and then you have the Odyssey, I believe is the name of the album. You have that Russ Kaplan, and then you have this album, which is more of this. He described as a piano meditation, inspired by wildlife. So again, one of the things I love hanging out with you, cool, awesome cats, man, is the growth of what you're doing composition wise, and really just taking a swing and creating music that's on your heart. And I really admire that. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there, Lewis, because I think this album is something that you should slow down and pay attention to when it comes out.
For sure.
We're blessed. I mean, I've had more time than usual to kind of reflect on, and I think that's historically what COVID is going to be. Sorry, there was a rule: no C words, or no C word. But what this time has done, I think it's chapter closing kind of a vibe. I think it's what was life and what do we want life to be going forward. And one of the things for me is looking back on the last 20 years of music production, distribution, and I only know from what comes to my desk. I think that it was kind of like childhood from 2000 to 2021. And now we're getting into those mature years where the technology's really coming together again. Or coming together, I say again because I reference a time in history, 1968 to 1973, I think, where songwriting and creativity and social explosion and recording technology and distribution was all sort of like in this perfect space, and that's why you see like bands dropping 3 or 4 albums year after year, and they're writing lyrics that you would think they were 60 or 70 years old, that they had lived in a full life. I see us kind of moving into this sort of more mature phase of mastering the technology, creatively improvising. And I just off of that statement, and I don't want to go too long because I know we're limited for time, but off of that statement, Joe, since you started this band, Bright Dog Red, with the purpose of improvising, do you see a difference between creative improvisation 5 years ago and what is available? Like, what does it mean now? Does it mean something different, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think it's in a way hard to assess because, you know, it means something different for this band. And over the past 5 years, people respond to this band differently. So in a way that kind of colors my understanding of it. But I do think, you know, I was saying it earlier, I do think that there is, there's a long tradition of improvised music. And there's a long tradition of improvised music that is, let's say, genre kind of either agnostic or adventurous with regard to genre, right? But I feel that maybe in the past 10 years, there's a kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a good period for improvised music. I feel like we're living in a very, very good period for improvised music. So I think there is some kind of change. I don't know really if I can assess it over the past 5 years, but definitely there are albums being made today that might not have gotten made 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. And they're finding, like increasingly they're finding platforms, they're finding places, they're finding audiences. At the same time, I think all the great things about the technology have also made it harder to do that because there's so many people doing it. Not like, I'm not thinking in terms of like we're all competing against each other. I don't mean that. It's just there's so much. And as an audience member, as somebody, you know, like off the top of my head, I try to rattle off some of the people that I'm listening to that I find inspiring. There's so many more that I can't even think of because every day I'm discovering something new and I'm thinking, you know, wow, this is amazing. You know, where has this artist been? Like, you know, there's an album in the UK. Nala is the first name of the artist. I can't remember her second name. Nala Senafine, I think. But it's you know, some friend of mine in Germany said you should check out this album, and I've just been listening to it over and over again. Emma Jean Thackeray in the UK. I don't know if you folks have heard her album. There's just people making albums that you say, you know, I don't know if this album would get made, get heard 5, 10, 15 years ago. And I'm really glad that it's getting made and getting heard. It's still not ideal. It's still not as inclusive as it could be. It's still not as diverse as it could be. But seeing that increased sort of activity from so many creative individuals, for me, is really inspiring. I feel like it's a good period. I feel actually like that's kind of true beyond improvised music as well. I feel like it's a decent period for popular music. That doesn't mean there isn't popular music that is what popular music is, right? It's for young people and it's for a certain time in their life. Maybe it's functional music for them to have to party to and dance to. But I just feel like there's a lot of really interesting things happening. Production techniques, ways of thinking about making albums, aesthetics, right? There's so many different aesthetics even within a genre today. You know, and like one of the courses that I teach, in addition to leading Bright Dog Red, I'm a professor, is a course in beat production. And some of the young musicians that come into the class, just their ideas, the things they're drawing on are so unique and so, in a way, studied. Like you'll hear references to Dilla and to other producers that you say, oh yeah, okay, I see what he's doing there. I see what she's trying to get there. But then other times, it's like they're doing something and they're drawing on something from the past, but they're doing it in a completely original, fresh way. Where I'm like, yeah, I don't know where that came from, except that it came from this person, and I'm really glad I got to hear it. So I feel like, you know, I feel good about the creative state of music. I have concerns, of course, about the sustainability for a lot of artists and for what their work is in terms of value. But the creativity, I do think we're in one of those periods, sort of like you described, Lewis. It won't be the same because it's a different period, and because there's so many people making music, and there's so much that's been done, that's been cataloged, that's accessible to young musicians today. But boy, yeah, there's a lot of exciting records, like for lack of a better phrase. I sound like an old man. There's a lot of exciting stuff going on today, but I really genuinely like I'll sit there and go through Bandcamp, the best platform, and I'll say, you know, oh, let's just listen to like random things. And, you know, like most of it I'm really excited about. And even the stuff that's not quite for me, it's still interesting. It's still like, oh, okay, I see what they're going for, you know. So I do think there's some change, you know, that I've seen. I know certainly the way we're received, and again, that might just be putting out the 5 albums, but certainly the way we're received, people scratch their heads a lot less about the band than they did
They're just
when we
enjoying
first
it.
came out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're enjoying it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. I mean, there's a difference between what is good creatively and what is good economically, or, you know.
Yeah,
And I mean,
sure.
I guess the premise is that with economic success, you've reached a lot of people. Define the term reach. You know, there's a lot of songs that I've heard in my life that I thought were really good that I have never listened to since. So reach didn't have any depth. It just kind of hit me in the moment. I just want to, riffing off of what you've said, I want to go back to like 1983, 84, New York City. A very romantic time in today's world. It was a mess. It was dirty. But it felt good like that, because everything was happening at once. Like you couldn't go down the street without another punk band or another new artist coming up, or another gallery that had artists that you'd never heard of, you know. And no one really found, not too many people found immediate commercial success in that. But when we write history about it, early 1980s, late 70s, right from mid 70s up to mid 80s, New York City, from hip hop to Basquiat to punk rock to backwards influence to the clash of hip hop. That's gonna be historically important, and honestly, it's starting to feel like that now. It's feeling a little rough out here in the virtual world, and
I think one thing that is similar but also a difference, right? So the similarity is that there are scenes, but today I feel like, certainly in my lifetime, when there was a scene, everybody kind of was drawn to that scene. So there's a period where Athens, Georgia was the scene, where Seattle was the scene. For a short period, Detroit was the scene, right? And so people are like, oh, whatever's happening there, that scene, we all have to go there. We all have to see what's happening there. We have to document it. We have to put out recordings, albums, documentaries. But I feel like now there are scenes, and they're kind of in a way micro scenes. So whether it's like South Africa or Brazil or the UK,
Ghana,
here in the States, like there's a period where LA was like, for a while, like in the 90s, nobody thought of LA as a musical place. But then by the early 2000s, it's like, no, there's all this stuff happening. It's people haven't been paying attention. It hasn't gotten the distribution. It's been sort of kept out of the mainstream of distribution and release. But then it started happening, and by the latter part of the first decade of the 2000s, suddenly LA is like producing all this incredible music. And I mean, there was always great music coming out of LA, but there was like a scene, particularly in improvised music. And I feel like those scenes now are just popping up. Like, you're like, oh, where are you from?
I have a theory. I have a theory about
ahead.
that. Sorry to interrupt you, but
no, go ahead.
So the scene, I mean, Joey Ramone didn't think he played punk rock. Neither did the Clash or the Sex Pistols, really. I mean, punk rock really didn't exist at the time. And there really wasn't a scene in downtown New York. There was a lot of things happening. But it's the historians that write what the scene was about. And today, history is written tomorrow morning.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It's really truncated, isn't it?
Sorry to interrupt. But...
No, it's right on.
There we go.
I feel like I'm learning a lot right now in this moment. I don't know. because you guys bring a different perspective. I got to be honest, right? You know, you guys are a little bit older than I am, not too much, but enough where, you know, you're talking about mid 70s to early 80s, and I'm, you know, Frankenstein walking around the house, you know. So
what came to your mind, Fabian? Were you thinking about, I don't know, playing checkers or?
No, you know what's so funny? When you said that, I actually playing checkers. I diverted from music. And I'm thinking about, well, in the 80s, what's nostalgic for me? And it was really it was movies. It was the film industry. And it was like comedy and satire and like all the, you know, Rodney Dangerfield, for whatever reason, just popped in my brain when he said the 80s. Like that was the first thing that came to my mind, you know, but you guys bring some pretty cool perspective. And, you know, you're right. Technology and communication is making history like, oh, there it is. Boom, it's out there. It's the power of everyone having a freaking virtual microphone wherever they go. It's kind of annoying, but remember, I'm the same guy that remembers like no cell phones, no tech. I mean, I know you guys do too, but like for my kids, it blows their mind. Dad, you grew up without a cell phone? Yeah, and without internet. What the hell are you guys talking about? Go outside and play. You know, so yeah, there's my
go outside and play. Nobody says that anymore. All right, I'm gonna cut. I'm gonna say thank you. Everybody, stay on the line. I'm gonna talk to you guys. I want to say thank you to people who are watching, and tune in next week when we don't know what we're gonna do. And I'm gonna take it out with a track from Taku Hirano, live downtown New Blue, New York. Get your ears ready.
Great.
Hey yo, money make the world go round and make a girl go down and make a fiend straight steal from his kid. Attack of the base head, just like Ye said, having it ain't everything, not having it is. Money got honey tan and to get her toned up. Money make a man take roids to hit the home runs. Money make a man turn his back on his own son. Money have a man